Welcome to the Canadian Federal Forum. My name is Gregg Aldana, and I direct the Creator Workflows Global Solution Consulting team at ServiceNow. I've been with ServiceNow for over 5 years, and prior to that, I spent about 15 years in the U.S. federal government leading digital transformation with low-code platforms like ServiceNow. And today, we're going to talk about how you can fuel innovation in the public sector with low-code. So what is Creator Workflows? Creator Workflows equals low-code application development for ServiceNow. ServiceNow has had the best-in-class low-code platform for many years, but just recently, we've overhauled our App Engine Studio, which I'll be demonstrating today, and we've launched our fourth workflow, our Creator Workflow, which encapsulates the core app engine of our platform in a new go-to-market strategy along with our integration hub. So digital adoption has taken a quantum leap in the past few years. And organizations are finding that they have to adopt in a very compressed time. And this applies to all federal governments around the world. We started to see things change back in 2019 with some emergencies, and digital transformation and low-code was very geared at people staying at home and working from home and being able to do healthcare from home and virtual classes as well as online conferences. But then towards the end of 2020, we saw things start to shift. And we started companies using digital transformation and low-code technologies to open up new ways of doing business, new ways to track supplies, new ways to provide digital services and digital healthcare and provide workplace safety. And where we see this going in the future, in 2021 and 22 and beyond, is really using low-code and digital transformation to enable completely new business behaviors and allowing governments to deliver services in new and exciting ways that they never imagined before. So what's going on with low-code? Low-code really is solving the need for speed. What everyone discovered during the pandemic year of 2021 was that taking months and years to provide digital transformation was no longer an option. Services needed to be automated and digitized as everyone was working from home much quicker. And now they're predicting that 500 million new applications will be built over the next 5 years. That's more applications than in the past 40 years. And there just is not enough developers to go around. They're predicting about a 1.4 million shortage of software developers across all industries. And so, enter low-code. This is going to help bridge that gap between the enterprise and the federal digital capabilities needed with the amount of developers that are available. So why does low-code matter as part of this conversation? Many organizations usually went through the traditional decision point of, do I buy or do I build? But what we're seeing more and more governments move to now is it's not a buy or build, but it's a buy to build conversation. And in fact, we're seeing it, Forrester is predicting 75% of all enterprise software to be built with low-code technology in 2021. Think about that for a minute. That's huge. And every company and every government's going to have a low-code strategy as a result. By 2024, we see 75% of large government agencies will be using at least 4 different low-code development tools in both their IT and their application development and their citizen development needs. So enter ServiceNow. As many of you are aware of, last year, ServiceNow moved into the Leaders Quadrant in Gartner's Enterprise Low-Code Application Platforms. And previously, ServiceNow had been a challenger in this area. And you can see that our shift there was for our completeness of vision as well as our ability to execute on this. And we're seeing more and more companies now moving their low-code strategies onto ServiceNow's App Engine. So what's driving this? Well, for one, a low-code platform equals more federal value creation. And so in the traditional model, where we saw government leaders making high-level decisions and then the policymakers and the thinkers within the government agencies coming up with all of these creative and great ideas and then passing them off to all the doers, people out in the field, the developers from different partners actually implementing. But with low-code strategies and low-code platforms, we see a shift to this model. And we see that middle layer, the policymakers, the thinkers, the great idea makers within agencies now becoming creators by using low-code technologies like the ServiceNow platform to enable them to provide more value and more innovation to the general public as well as to federal employees. So whatever your business is facing, you can simply workflow it. ServiceNow is really known as the platform of platforms. And I'm sure throughout the Canadian Federal Forum, you've heard this term. So what does this really mean? Is ServiceNow coming in to replace all of my underlying technologies? And I get asked that by customers on a daily basis. And the answer is no. ServiceNow is not coming in to replace all the technologies within your government agency. But ServiceNow is very uniquely propositioned to be that connective tissue and to provide the integrated layer with all of your underlying systems of record, whether they be in IT, whether they be in marketing, whether they be in finance or HR. ServiceNow and ServiceNow's Creator Workflows provide the workflows and the integrations, the machine learning and artificial intelligence, the user experience, the administration and configuration, and that seamless integration so that your end users, your federal employees, and your citizens aren't exposed to all the complexity and all those other systems of record you have on the back end. And using ServiceNow's Creator Workflows, you can provide those interfaces to customers or to citizens and to employees through their mobile applications, through their native web browsers, or through conversational interfaces like Slack or Microsoft Teams. And what we're seeing is that federal agencies are using App Engine to automate across the government and across the mission. So a recent survey found that lines of businesses that are being served by App Engine outside of IT are growing. We're seeing government agencies using App Engine to automate financials, supply chain, procurement, citizen and public awareness activities, about 27% in operations and 18% in HR. And we're seeing that they're not just only using App Engine to extend, but about a third are, 28% are using it to extend the core applications of ServiceNow, but we saw another 33% just using App Engine to create new applications that have never existed before. And then another third, about 35%, are doing both extending their core IT, HR, and customer workflows with App Engine, as well as building new applications. So I want to take a minute to talk about our approach on low-code and how ServiceNow views this differently than most agencies. Low-code is a team sport. So let's review the scope of requirements here. ServiceNow recognizes that low-code truly is a team sport, and you have to take into account all three of these groups. So let's start with the creators. These are the citizen developers or the low coders within federal business units and the professional developers. They are directly responsible for building applications, digitizing workflows, both in IT and in the mission lines of business of federal agencies. They care about the speed and the agility and the ability to build and change fast with much less demanding skills and resources. Once they have done this, they're handing these applications off to the operational teams. These are the people that are responsible for the deployment and for the management of these applications. These oversight teams, they care about scalability, they care about efficiency, and ensuring that the apps are up to all the federal standards. So they're focused on the guardrails, the security, and the reliability of these services. And then finally, there's the end users, the people that have to use these applications, both public citizens as well as federal employees. And they have to be able to use these applications without disruption. They can't go through intensive training to learn how to use them. They have to be consumer-grade applications that they can use right off the bat with no experiences and that they're going to want and love to use. So any approach that the federal government takes to low-code has got to take into account all three of these groups. And that's where ServiceNow is very uniquely propositioned. We have a philosophy of any developer, any app on one single platform. What really sets ServiceNow apart from a lot of the other low-code technologies in the landscape is that you can bring together all the different types of development groups on a single platform. On other technologies, you have to make a decision. Are you going to go down the low-code path or the pro-code path? And you really can't mix the two. But on ServiceNow, you can have mission-critical line of business analysts, maybe just starting with a simple application, drag and drop a workflow and creating a form, then handing it off to a line of business developer to maybe add in some scripting, and then finally, every developer, no matter how good they are going to hit a wall where they need a professional IT developer. And in ServiceNow, you can actually hand that application off to your pro developer to add in those sophisticated federal and enterprise grade items that the applications need. And so ServiceNow has taken care of this and has created this single platform that allows this collaboration between line of business developers, the knowledge workers, as well as the professional developers. So we've really found a better way to code. And we've really democratized the development by doing this. Whereas in the traditional approach, IT shops within government agencies were really focusing on the custom code and the bespoke architecture and how to bring together all these different technologies. ServiceNow has pre-built all of these technologies out of the box. Virtual agents and integrations. You can do no-code integrations. It's all pre-built so that your teams can focus on the functionality and the innovation because ServiceNow has taken care of the technology problems and you don't have to accrue more technical debt in order to deploy new applications. And so that a traditional approach, you had silo applications with different technologies and different groups. And now by adopting ServiceNow as your low-code platform, you can have a connected application with full visibility, one platform, one architecture, and one data model. So really, App Engine delivers on this need for speed, and it does this by creating powerful apps fast without the complexity of traditional software development, providing these consumer-grade experiences that both employees and citizens are going to love, and the reliability of a core platform that scales that is needed to support any government or any enterprise. So how do we do this? ServiceNow makes low-code very simple and very easy with a series of out-of-the-box tools from table builders to form designers to portal designers to our new App Engine Studio, which we just launched last month as part of our Quebec release. And this is a game changer. This is ServiceNow's very first release that targets the knowledge worker to make them as productive as possible and providing a state-of-the-art, second-to-none low-code experiences and strengthening that collaboration between the knowledge workers and the mission-critical business units and the IT developer that has to release the application. So now I'm going to take you on a quick demonstration of this game-changing App Engine Studio. Welcome to App Engine Studio. App Engine Studio helps you build workflow apps fast that can be quickly scaled across the enterprise, all while providing experiences your end users are just going to love. So let's get into it. You can see on the App Engine Studio homepage, we provide a number of useful links to get you started creating apps from scratch, or diving back into an application project you already had in progress. But one of the best parts about App Engine Studio is that it brings together everything your creators need to build high-quality, potentially mission-critical applications. We put a great deal of thought into App Engine Studio toolset to help out the Now Platform capabilities and put it in the hands of your creators and have it at their fingertips, while ensuring that the app development process remains intuitive and adheres to your specific governance and security requirements. What this means is less effort to expand your citizen development practice because everything your creators need is in one single place. No need to create custom documents or training to explain various parts of the Now platform or how they interconnect. You can simply direct your team to App Engine Studio and leverage the out-of-the-box templates, the embedded tooling, and the guidance that will present your creators with what they need every step of the way. You don't need to be a developer. You don't even need to know what's required to bring an app to life. All you need is a problem to solve before clicking Create App. And from here on out, App Engine Studio will guide you through the process, starting with some basic details like a name and a logo. After that, we break down the process into 4 fundamental parts. First, we'll set up some basic data. Then, we're going to define the experience your end users will leverage. Then, we're going to outline a bit of automation and a bit of business logic. And then finally, we're going to define the user roles that will eventually use this application. So, let's go ahead and we're going to add some data where we can accomplish by uploading a spreadsheet, building a table from scratch, or extending an existing table on the platform. Next, we can choose our user experiences, which can be anything from a browser-based workspace or a portal to a catalog item or even a native mobile application. An important thing to note as we walk through our application is that you can add as many of these components as you deem necessary, perhaps starting small with a single uploaded spreadsheet and a workspace, but then scaling long-term with a variety of data sources and user experiences that are tightly coupled, eliminating the traditional application sprawl that many of us are used to. Now we're going to add some automation through the use of our Flow Designer, which is now embedded within App Engine Studio. And as we start adding business logic, you'll notice that one of the key features of App Engine Studio is templates. As users add automation to their app, they'll be presented with a number of handy workflow templates that take the guesswork out of crafting an effective workflow. We cover a number of common use cases that can be leveraged as is or used as a starting point for folks not familiar with Flow Designer. This powerful capability takes an already amazing Flow Designer and makes it even more accessible with these templates and incorporation into the native App Engine Studio. But templates don't just stop with automation. We also include a number of fully functional application templates that put a ServiceNow quality application blueprint in your hands. Just like the Flow templates, these app templates can be used out of the box to bring a business app to life with just a few clicks, or leveraged as a starting point for your specific needs. The template page will give you an idea of what the template will look like once deployed, along with some handy tips on what you might need to get the app off the ground. Now, once deployed, you'll be able to check out the way these templates are structured, just as you would an app you created from scratch. We can see a few tables here, some interfaces, as well as a handful of automation tasks. If we want to check these out in more details, there's no need to go elsewhere. You can click right here. Simply click on a data source and open the all-new Table Designer, and you can tweak the structure of your app in a fashion similar to just editing a spreadsheet. No masters in database management required. Click on a flow, and it opens up the Flow Designer tab, and you can check out how the pros at ServiceNow are wiring up business automation without writing a line of code. And your pro developer colleagues can even open up our UI builder within App Engine Studio to craft the perfect user interface. Though we'll leave the excitement of UI builder for another time. Next, we can move on to security, where we can add roles and access to our application. You can build new roles with permissions, or you can actually choose from existing roles. Finally, when it's time to bring your application and your vision to life, pressing submit serves as a handoff to your IT team. This is yet another aspect of citizen development that App Engine Studio improves, as it gives some basic insight to the creators as to what happens behind the scenes when they press the submit button. The IT pros can have access to a pipeline that helps them review and approve the applications before testing and ultimately pushing them out into production. There's so much more to cover, but hopefully you now have an idea of the way App Engine Studio can help your citizens and help your employees develop applications fast, deliver experiences end users love, and scale those applications without sprawl. If you'd like to learn more, head on over to developer.servicenow.com, and you could be building a new application on a ServiceNow instance in App Engine Studio within minutes. Now I'm going to take a few minutes to walk you through some great compelling examples of how public sector customers are using ServiceNow's low-code app engine to innovate at scale. This first example many of you may have read about in the news. The city of Los Angeles used ServiceNow's low-code app engine as part of their COVID-19 rapid response. The team had an edict from the Mayor Garcetti, on March 22, 2020, that by Sunday evening, they needed to launch a testing application that the citizens of Los Angeles County could use to come in registered and find locations to get tested for COVID-19. They looked at many alternatives, but they had a nice 48-hour window with which to develop this application. And working with a ServiceNow partner, they were able to develop and deploy a testing solution in less than 36 hours. And this COVID-19 rapid response was rolled out to the general public and allowed citizens to go in and type in their information and find the nearest location that they could drive up with a QR code and get tested immediately for COVID-19, all using ServiceNow's low-code platform. The next example was also during the pandemic last year with St. Jude Research Hospital. They were hit with a dilemma once everyone had to work remotely from home on how they could manage their contract signature process. No longer could people walk around from office to office to get wet signatures. So they decided to implement a third-party product called DocuSign in order to manage digital signatures. But there still was a gap. They needed to automate the workflows and the signatures behind this and the notifications. And different contracts involve many different processes. And a single citizen developer or knowledge user, far from a full-stack developer inside St. Jude Research Hospital, went from idea into production in less than 3 weeks. He used the App Engine and the Flow Designer and our out-of-the-box integration hub Spoke built for DocuSign to implement an application in 3 weeks. And one of the great parts about this application was that he didn't have to write any code with which to integrate with DocuSign. He could just use a Spoke, and he could have a drop-down box where he could automate the processes. And since then, St. Jude Research Hospital has gone on to build many other low-code applications as part of their strategy. Another really cool example, the US military had a process to examine their enlistees for fitness requirements every 6 months in order to deploy them to theaters of war. This was a completely manual process where enlistees had to call up a phone number or send an email in order to schedule an appointment, and there was a spreadsheet to manage all the appointments, and then the examiners had to write the results of the exams down on a clipboard, and then people had to call back in to find out what was going on. It was a completely convoluted and disconnected process. And again, within 3 weeks, the military was able to use the ServiceNow low-code app engine to build a fitness tracking application where the enlistees could use their mobile phone to schedule an appointment at the location that they wanted. The examiners were able to use an iPad interface to actually record the results of the examinations. And then the airmen were able to go back into their mobile application and see the results instantly. And then the military commanders had ServiceNow dashboards built with App Engine where they could view and see the fitness requirements of different soldiers in different locations, as well as where they needed more examiners. It was a great example of using a low-code App Engine for digital transformation in the public sector. Another really compelling example was with the National Cancer Institute. They used App Engine to launch an application to study COVID within 10 days. And this was around their digital service center. They've had a lot of success in building low-code applications with ServiceNow's App Engine. So they set up a digital service center around this where they could intake new ideas and then produce these applications rapidly. And what this application allowed the agency to do was to take samples and genetic samples from patients and from labs all around the country of people that had COVID to study the patterns and the genetic markers and allow them to treat and come up with therapies for people with very severe symptoms. And this was actually a very critical part of the response of Operation Warp Speed. And this application was launched in 10 days, again, using very little code, a true digital transformation example in the public sector. Another very compelling example was with a healthcare payer in the United States that had a problem and a workforce problem during the pandemic. They found that their dental claims division with 4,500 employees were suffering almost a work slowdown. People weren't going to the dentist during the pandemic, so they had much less claims to process. So rather than furlough these 4,500 employees, a single developer worked with an IT pro developer and launched what they called the Match.com of their company that allowed these employees to list their skills in a marketplace and then allow other areas of the companies to submit jobs, and they could match people with these skill sets with other areas of the company, like mental health, which was seeing an explosion of new claims and needed help in their area. This was launched in October of 2020, and since then, 127 unique projects were completed, and an additional 700 employees have come in there that weren't being furloughed that wanted to find out other areas of the company where they could find work in different areas. And again, this was launched in 3 weeks, starting to see a pattern, low code, and not waiting months and months and months to digitally automate emerging business processes, but using our low-code app engine to launch those in a very quick amount of time. Another very interesting example was the U.S. Government Operations Coordinating Company. So they had a problem last year where they had to fight wildfires. And this was a very convoluted process. This involved like 15 different systems and many different federal agencies. And they were fighting fires both at the federal, the state, and the local level to bring resources together. And they had no way to do this. And they used the ServiceNow low-code app engine to launch what they called IROC, an interagency resource ordering capability to fight wildfires. And this enhanced the interagency operations in under 6 months, where this would have taken years prior. And what they were able to do was decrease the amount of time it took to respond to fighting wildfires. And they had greater end-to-end visibility into where the requests were coming from, where the fires were being put out, and which agencies were being assigned. This was an absolutely outstanding example of different both federal and local agencies working together using ServiceNow's low-code app engine. Also in the US, we saw many explosion of federal, farm, and conservation low-code apps from different agencies, and they were using ServiceNow's low-code app engine to manage robotic process automation, vehicle management, electronic lease management, and they did an analysis in 2020 of 126 applications they were looking to automate, and to see if ServiceNow's low-code app engine would be a good fit for it. And what came out of that they found that 96 out of 126 applications within the agency were a good fit for ServiceNow's low-code app engine. And this included many different factors: the form requirements, the mobility requirements, the frequency of updates. And now they've deployed ServiceNow's low-code app engine to build applications around agriculture risk coverage, price loss coverage, commodity loan processing, mobile planning, even non-insured crop disaster assistance programs here, and none of this would have been possible without the ServiceNow low-code app engine. The final example I wanted to talk about was the U.S. State Department, who has standardized the automation of all of their services within the embassies on the ServiceNow low-code app engine platform. And they've deployed this over a number of years, and more than 140 applications have been built using ServiceNow's low-code app engine to over 114 U.S. State Department employees globally. This includes everything from the management of their grants, to visitor access into the embassies, to requesting translation services and courier services, as well as reserving rooms at different embassies. And this was all rolled out using the ServiceNow low-code app engine. But they've not only just used the ServiceNow low-code app engine to automate existing services, they've used this to deal with emerging needs as they come up. In 2018, many of you will remember the US government shutdown. And when all of the employees came back to work that were furloughed, they had no mechanism to allow them to request and recoup their annual leave that they had missed. And using the ServiceNow low-code app engine, they were able to just roll this out as another service into their portal in less than 2 weeks. And this was something that they would have not been able to do beforehand. And using the integration hub, they were able to use spokes into systems on the back end, time and attendance systems, where they could link all of this data. But this was really important to the US State Department last year when COVID hit and they had to quickly provide critical services to diplomats around the world. Really, in the early days of the pandemic, the Department of State was able to develop and deliver in almost a dozen mission-critical apps in just a few weeks. And these were big applications that tracked every country on the planet and what their COVID-19 requirements were. If you came from North America to Great Britain, did you have to quarantine? If you went from Great Britain to Germany, did you have to quarantine? And if you did, what were those quarantine requirements? So this was a huge tracking mechanism that showed what phases each of these countries were in and what phases each of the US State Department posts were in and the COVID requirements for each. And this was all done using ServiceNow's low-code app engine. It was a huge success. Before, it would have taken them months to figure out the application requirements and then to go back to development, but with our platform, they were able to iterate on these almost instantaneously. So this has become a mission-critical technology for the US State Department in delivering services. If you'd like to see more of these examples, head on over to snexperiences.com, where you can take a lot of these examples and App Engine innovative experiences for a ride yourself. So in closing, I'd like to call to action. So take inventory of the automation opportunities that exist in your federal agency. Identify what the priorities are, because now is the time to develop your low-code strategies. And then when you're ready, head on over to developer.servicenow.com and get an instance and start innovating with low-code today. Thank you very much.